And socio-political subjects. He hails from a rural village, that is say in Odisha, and he has done BTech from NIT Rourkela. He has completed his master's in Vedic studies. So Abhishek ji is going to talk about myths as a medium for the transfer of transcendental knowledge, stories from Sri Durga Saptasati. Please, Abhishek ji.
Yeah, Jai Mahakal, everyone. Yeah. So it's really tough to speak about stories after so many good paper presentations. I don't know what new I have to speak, but yeah, I'll try my best. So my topic is myths as a medium for the transfer of transcendental knowledge. And I will be using stories from chapter 5 to 10 from Sri Durga Saptasati Chandi to explain how myths encode as the medium of transcendental knowledge. So before starting my topic, I would like to focus on two words, mythos and logos. It comes from Greek tradition. Mythos refers to, beliefs, stories, all those things, and whereas logos refers to something that is rational, logical, that uses your intellect, irrespective of the belief systems of the people. So it's a kind of duality. So let's explore further. Yeah, so what are the mainstream ideas of mythical stories? I think Dr. Barua very well explained that. I'll just note it down. Stories are creations of primitive naturalistic cultures. Stories encode the social mores and the ideas, the cultures of those times. They are also imaginations, fantasies of people, and they are created for leisurely activity, during leisurely activities. And the first point, mainly creations of primitive naturalistic cultures, that comes from the early Orientalist who portrayed that India or the East is primitive, whereas the West, after Renaissance, has gone one step ahead. So that's linking to the idea of myths or mythos. So now, coming back to our own traditions, what are the different tools that encode the jnana? Jnana here refers to the apara vidya, like the knowledge that goes beyond the body-mind complex. First is the mantra, and coming from the Vedas, that the Vedas are aupurashaya, and aupurashaya actually means that it's not created by the normal human mind. So if we go to Sri Aurobindo's philosophy, he talks about overmind, intuitive mind, and last the supermind, supramental being, which he conceives. So those are creations of those minds or those higher states. And from those higher states, the Rishi captures those things and gives to the Shishya, and who again repeats those through rituals and all, and again attains those overmind, supermind, and intuitive mind. Similarly, Kriya, as you know, breath technique through which we channelize the Kundalini, and the 7 chakras of our Kundalini refers to different states. Like the first Muladhara chakra refers to the gross state, and whose devata is Sri Ganesh. Similarly, Kriya technique helps us channelize our Kundalini. Then Kalpa, which refers to one of the Vedangas, which refers to different rituals, like different rites of passage, and Joseph Campbell, the great mythologist, who talks about how when one passes from one state of life to another state of life, these rituals actually aid in the inner psychological transformation. So let's say for brahmacharya, we have different rituals. For sannyasas, we have different rituals. So these actually helps in different psychic transformations. Then karma, I think the best example would be what Sri Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, how you niskama karma, you do not stay in past or future, you do what is it, and that helps you attain the jnanan. So all these tools lead to accessing the inner psychic and higher spiritual knowledge, and they are passed down through generation through different lineages. Again, I forgot to add one more thing. Kala is also a medium of that encodes jnana, And each of these words you can see starts from the first consonant of Devanagari script, Ka. So that's not a like coincidence, that's by design. Now let's go back to mythical stories, how they are tools for transcendental knowledge. So mythical stories, what I'm going to present, also encode the inner psychic and cosmic runs. So if it's not just about about the stories of the social ages, it's not just about the primitive culture, it's just not about leisurely activities, but it has deeper things to speak. And they are created, just like I mentioned, rishis created mantras. Similarly, they are created by people who are in tune with the prakriti, whether that's inner or outer. So Sri Aurobindo talks about in the human cycle about the symbolic age of the Vedic age as the symbolic age, in which everything that was talked about, the Indras, the Vedas, the Vedic yajnas, the Maruts, the Agni, all these encodes different symbolic meaning, the psychic meaning or the spiritual meaning. It's the Orientalist who just put it out as the primitive culture, but those are actually spiritual meanings, and he very elaborately explains all these ideas in the Secret of Veda with a consistency and with proper purvapaksha of things. And they help disseminate complex knowledge of Upanishads and Darshana Shastras among the masses through easy methods like storytelling, Kathavachak Parampara. That's how this knowledge of Jnanan get transmitted. Now let's look at a story from Sri Durga Saptasati, or a series of stories from Durga Saptasati, chapter 5 to 10. Durga Saptasati comes from Markandeya Purana, and here the Devi is Mahasaraswati from chapter 5 to 10. First is Mahakali, then Mahalakshmi, and then Mahasaraswati. So I'll just briefly explain the story. So when I'll explain, you can, if those who, like, if we keep our mind aside, it may seem like it's just a naturalistic creation. It's a story of naturalistic creation. So how the story goes is that Indra has lost his Tribhuvana to Sumbha and Nisumb, and so he is just roaming with other devas. So all the devatas go to the Himalaya. They do stuti of Ma, and I think everybody knows that stuti. It starts with Ya Devi Sarvabhutesu Vishnuma iti Sabdita Namastasai 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 Namo Namo. Then it goes on. And by that stuti, that Devi Suktam, Tantroktak Devi Suktam, the Ma Jagadamba descends from higher layer runs to lower runs. Then the Asuras, Chanda and Munda, fail for Ma's beauty, and they send their messenger. They go and talk to Sumbha and Nisumba. Then they send their messenger. Sugriva. Sugriva comes. He tries to lure Ma to marry Chanda and Munda. Then Ma says that anybody who goes and defeats me in the battle, I will marry him. Then they send their Senapati Dhumralochana, who gets defeated, killed by Ma. Then the Chanda and Munda Asuras comes, they both brothers come, they both get defeated by Ma Kali, and by killing Chanda and Munda, she gains the name of Chamunda. Then they send another Rakshasas whose name is Raktavija, and who gets reborn by every blood that drops in the ground. Then Ma Chamunda or Ma Kali licks all the blood and kills him. And here the battle actually takes place on the elongated tongue of Chamunda. Then finally Sumbha and Nisumba arrives. They both, and in this process, Ma Jagadamba, she manifests in various form. Though they accuse her, Nisumba accuses her, Sumbha accuses her, why so many are fighting with me. Then Ma tells her something. Then they both get killed. So this is the story. So it looks like, it's just a folklore kind of thing, nothing, Asura and Devata are fighting, both are killed. But if we go into the deeper realms, we will understand that it is actually talking about the Upanishadic thoughts, about the Darshana Shastras. Let's see how. Yeah. So let's understand who is Indra first. And in Secret of the Vedas, Sri Aurobindo talks about Indra as the cosmic mind or the cosmic pure intelligence. That intelligence which actually controls the lower manifest or lower evolutes like the pancha karmendriyas, the pancha gyanendriyas, the manas. So when Indra is getting defeated, it actually refers that the cosmic mind or the mind of a person is actually in control with the pancha karmendriyas, pancha gyanendriyas or the emotional mind. So he or she doesn't understand what is to be done or what is not to be done. He or she is completely under their control. So that person is actually one who has lost his viveka buddhi, what is right and what is wrong. So the defeat of the Indra actually refers to this, that somebody who has lost control over his own body and mind. Then all the devatas come and they stuti of Ma Durga. So this recurring theme you will find in various other stories also. Like again coming from Sri Aurobindo's another magnum opus Savitri, there Ashwapati does yajna of Ma Savitri and she descends. Here also Ma Durga descends. So what this ascent descent refers to, here the devatas go to the Himalaya, a giant, structure, and they stuti. And there Ashwapati does stuti and the Agni from the Havan rises and Savitri descends in that. So as per integral yoga philosophy of Sri Aurobindo, he talks about triple acts. One is the act of aspiration, which is aspiration for higher jnana. Then rejection of impurities of self, the lower prakritis, and surrender of ahamkara. One who has done these three will be able to attain the divinity. So here the act of ascendance and descendance is actually the integral yoga philosophy where the ascendance of the bhakta's power goes up and the descent of the divine power comes down. A similar example is shown in Savitri. And a pure aspiration from below leads to descent of higher knowledge from above. This is the descent of Ma Durga. Yeah. Then first comes Sugriva. Sugriva, if we dissect the word, it's Su and Griva. Griva means throat. So one who is having a dual character. He is talking very sweet things to Ma Durga, like Chanda and Munda, they are so powerful, you come, marry them, they will give you all the riches. But in actuality, his intentions are different. So that actually talks about the duality of human nature. Somebody may portray something where inside we are thinking about something else. That's the duality that we all see. So Sugriva is actually that characteristics which is encoded within us. Then the first Senapati who comes is Dhumra Lochana. Divide this word Dhumra Lochana. Lochana means vision or eye. Dhumra is something that is hazy, biased or something. So that person who has lost his discriminating intellect, even if he sees Ma, he is not able to understand who is she and he fights with her. And that person has to die. That duality or that haziness has to go if you are going to attain divinity. Then third, Chanda and Munda comes. Munda is like, head is known as Munda. So Munda is like manifest, something, because head is visible. Chanda, something that is unmanifest. Again, the duality, manifest and unmanifest. Now, if we look at Yoga Sutra, there yoga is referred to as Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So, vrittis can be manifest or unmanifest, or the samskaras. We have our many past life samskaras that can manifest at any time. That remains in a dormant or in a seed state, that will manifest at many time. So, to attain, so again, the killing of Chanda and Munda is actually referring to Chitta Vritti Nirodha from Yoga Sutras, Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. So that's the state of union or oneness yoga that is being portrayed through this story. So actually when Chanda Munda are getting killed, we are actually referring to Yoga Sutra's philosophy. Then here, if we look at the descriptions of how they are killed, both enter the mouth of Mahakali. This symbolizes that the highest knowledge, Shakti, encompasses both manifest and unmanifest. There, at the highest state or the highest divinity level, there is no difference between manifest and unmanifest. It's at the lower or at the human mind level that there is a difference. Yeah. Then the asura who comes is Rakta Bija. Bija, as we know, is a seed, and we have several beads or bija within us, the different samskaras which we create through our own karmas. When the karma is actually referred to either aversion to an object, or clinging to an object, and this creates endless chain of samskaras. And one who is immersed in desirable and undesirable falls for this. Now, what does this tongue of Ma Kali refers here? That actually refers to the, like when Ma Durga descends, that actually refers, the divinity is encompassing in the matter. Similarly, the tongue of the Ma Kali refers here to the expansion of divine consciousness. So where there is expansion of divine consciousness, there will be this end of samskaras. The karmic cycle will be broken. So when the battle is being fought on the tongue of Ma Kali, and every drop of Rakta Bija falls on her tongue, this is actually talking about, expansion of Chaitanya, or expansion of Ananda, bliss, that everybody is feeling at that state, and here there is no duality also. Then, after this, Sumbha and Nisumbha comes, and the different Devis forms emerge from her, and this actually again shows that the principle is one. There is Advaita and oneness, and from that Advaita, different manifestations of Devi come. So here, since it's a Sakta text, Devi is the highest principle, from whom different Devis or different forms comes. And we also see this in the Stuti also. When the Devatas are actually worshipping her, they refer to, even mundane qualities that we have, like Nidra, Rupena, Sangstita, all those things. So actually everything is a singular principle. There is no duality involved. And here also you see that all the Devis or all the Devatas are emerging from her, and they are fighting. Similarly, Sumbha and Nisumbha, again a duality. Throughout this text, or in other texts also, we see there is always a duality. Madhu and Kaitava, similarly in chapter 1, two demons, duality, craving and aversion. Sumbha, Nisumbha, Chanda, Munda. So everywhere we are seeing duality is present, and the principle of oneness, as whether it's Ma Durga or Ma Kali, they are actually killing the duality. That means they are transforming or transcending the duality. So, Sumbha and Nisumbha here can mean the subject-object duality. Here it can also mean Sumbha and Nisumbha as the Sankalpa, Vikalpa duality, or what kind of duality you see. And the killing of them actually refers to the transcendence of duality. And here when Sumbha questions Ma Durga, like, you are saying, you are getting into many forms, and you are actually killing me. This is not fair. Then Ma tells that these are not different forms. This is me only. All the different Devis, like 1008 Devis that you are seeing, this is only one. So again, he is telling that for a normal human mind, you may see as different Devatas, but the principle remains the same, and it's the principles of Advaita or Ekatva Darsana. So this story speaks of transcending this duality, reality, singular, the oneness of Shakti here, it helps grasp such difficult concepts in such an easy and lucid form. And how the story is transmitted, I think we all know this, the Chandi Puja or the Sri Durga Saptasati chanting, Parayana during Navaratri, it's just got over through different Sampradaya lineages. These stories are transmitted from grandfathers to grandparents to grandchildren, through Natya Parampara, through Kathabachak Parampara. These stories are actually transmitted. And while these stories are transmitted, we don't realize that we are transmitting this higher knowledge, or the apara vidya, or the jnanam, which is encoded in these stories through all these modes. So this is a subtle way of how the complex ideas of Upanishads, the complex ideas of Darsana Shastras, whether it's from different Saiva, Sakta or Vaisnava Sampradayas, they are actually getting encoded in these stories and are being transmitted. And this helps us know about our several inner instruments. Like I think Muniji will be talking about the Panchakosas. How do you know what is Vijnanamaya Kosa? How do you know what is Anandamaya Kosa? These stories are actually speaking about those things because a normal human mind can only understand Annamaya, Pranamaya at most and max Manamaya Kosa. Then as I talked about, they disseminate among the masses the jnana of Upanishads and Agamas. And one more, like I'll conclude with this, one more point that we need to keep in mind, that everywhere we see that duality, like this pedagogy of stories always talks about transcending duality and getting into oneness. And Joseph Campbell also talks about this in his Orientalist mythology. Whereas, if we see modern educational pedagogy, which actually has its root from the works of Descartes and Locke and Rousseau, there we see there is a duality. Whereas John Locke talks about, the nurture, mind, everybody is born with a blank slate. And he talks about nurturing as the only principle through which education can come, whereas Rousseau talks about man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains. So he stresses on the nature principle. So again, they both, the Western Renaissance educational pedagogy, which is based on Western Renaissance lineage or Western Renaissance tradition, that is still engraved or still conflicted with duality, whereas our worldview of educational pedagogies is actually transcending this duality and resting in this principle of oneness, whether that oneness can be Sankara Advaita, that can be Kashmiri Saivism Advaita, or this Advaita of Ekatva Darsana from Sakta Parampara, or it may be different things. There are different perspectives, and obviously there are conflicting things also. But it's the singularity and transcending, the limited experiences of body and mind, whereas René Descartes talks about the duality of mind and body. That's the core difference, and these stories actually help us transgress this core difference, understand the class of civilizations thing. I think I'm done.
Thank you so much. Yes, question is already up there for you.
It's a very nice presentation. Since you mentioned about the origin in work of Descartes, Locke and Rousseau, I think the Locke was the one who actually believed that we are born as an empty mind, right? And then, all the imprints go upon. And this is a little bit different than the very pedagogy of story that is there in our Indian tradition, right? For example, Abhimanyu wanted the worm when he heard the story, which was completely negated by Locke. So how you are reconciling this thing?
How do I reconcile what?
Means you said that there is a worldview of modern education philosophy finds its origin. So how you are relating things to the origin of works of Locke?
No, he was actually saying the opposite.
Okay.
He was saying that these stories contradict the dichotomy-oriented Locke, Descartes kind of thing.
Okay, so it's completely the other way.
And your contrast is in the epistemology. Right. You are talking of the empiricist and naturalist epistemology. Right. That is not brought at all. He was not touching epistemological things at all. Yeah.
I just saw that.
Thank you.
Again, not a question, but I just like to add, if I may, to the context of allegory as pedagogy. And the allegory of the Devi Mahatmyam, the background to it, if you look at the text, the words used, you have two people, Suratha and Samadhi. One is a king, the other is a merchant. They go in search of a teacher called Sumedhas. The names are significant there. That it's not random, that Suratha, the one who runs the kingdom well, Samadhi, one who is seeking a sense of reconciliation, going to a teacher called Sumedhas, the right teacher, a competent teacher, therefore representing the Paddhati. That for initiation there has to be a Jnana Parampara, which is already there, it's in the preamble. So that's one point. Also that it is a continuing tradition, that the Devi Mahatmyam is not just a story, it is a living tradition in Polali. If you go to Mangalore, you have the Polali Rajarajeshwari temple where this becomes the Sthala Purana. And the deity there is the deity that Suratha and Samadhi create out of the forest mud. So there is a continuity in the narrative to the living tradition of today. I just wanted to add that.
So just, to your first point about this the king, the merchant, and they go to the forest and they find a hermit there. This is from first chapter, and like Indica had a conference on Puranas and Itihasas. In that I had presented this story, so you can read my article if you are interested in Indic today. I had completely explained what that story actually meant. You'll find the similar connotations here. And yeah, on the second point, I also want to tell that Devi Mahatmya or Durga Saptasati or Chandi, whatever you say, it's a very potent text. It's a very sacred text. So in this process of dissecting it, we should be careful that we do not rationalize it, we do not make it something scientific, logical, because what I am talking about is just not even 0.1% of that. So that, Shraddha, we have to approach from that faith. And
yeah, I have one question. I have I'm just looking a little with wonder at the first words there, which is myths. So already a lot of body of knowledge that we have in our tradition is passed off as myths.
Yeah.
So I would have preferred something better, like what was mentioned just now as either allegories or maybe call it as metaphors. Because I understand your idea behind, when you're in your presentation was probably like these are metaphors which have a whole depth of knowledge which is very relevant to our existential being today and forever. It's eternal. So it just seems that we're giving fodder to our detractors by putting it off as myths.
No, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
The mythos and the logos
Right.
duality that comes from Greek tradition. One is about beliefs, stories and all, and other is about rationality, logic.
Yes.
So that's actually correct.
That was one.
Correct,
that's the
yeah.
main thing,
But it could also be addressing the Western audience
Well,
to
then-
tell them that what you are thinking as myths
is
are
different
actually
for
a
us.
means of transfer of transcendental knowledge.
Yeah, then it could have been within quotes. Myths, myths. As in, I don't agree it's myths. You
myths
guys
within-
call it myths.
Okay.
So let's argue on that
Actually,
standpoint.
like it's my personal opinion in this, when we are addressing this or we are playing with English words, forget myth, this same problem we find whether Hinduism is a religion or Hinduism is spirituality. You will find the same side arguing for the same case, but they are clinging to different terms. Again, even if somebody is saying spirituality, then what do you mean by spirit? Because spirit has a different connotation in West, but in East.
Right. So I'm
that
just-
will remain until and unless we collectively want to take as a collective to go this path.
Yeah. I'm just saying we do a bit of pushback by saying that we don't accept it as myths, but you are, so let's argue
but our
that.
myth is different. completely.
She's saying put it in inverted commas. Put it in inverted commas.
Exactly.
That actually makes sense. Yeah.
Right. Any other questions? None? Okay. So we can go to the next. Thank you very much, Abhishek ji.